Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are unpacking an absolute anomaly of a story. We're going to follow the completely high-octane journey of a guy who didn't just beat a god-tier game system, he literally shattered its very code. We are looking at this incredible cinematic tale of sheer, stubborn willpower just totally overriding reality itself. Trust me, you're going to love this one.
Okay, let's dive into this. The story hooks you right from the jump with this crazy apocalyptic premise. Imagine you're just out running errands, buying a bag of chips or whatever, and suddenly, massive structures called nightmare towers burst out of the ground all over the world. And they bring with them endless hordes of monsters. Humanity is decimated, like a third of the population is wiped out almost instantly. But then, a system notification pops up, offering survivors the chance to become tower walkers to fight back and save the world. It's kind of your classic setup where life suddenly becomes a video game with levels and stats, right? But the choices made inside the specific tower completely flip that entire script.
Because for our main character, Jaiwan, progression wasn't some fun, heroic adventure. It was an absolutely agonizing climb. By the time he reaches the 99th floor, he is utterly alone. He actually spent 10 grueling years totally isolated in a frozen wasteland, just fighting an ice dragon. And before that, he had to watch his entire squad, humanity's last hope, known as Carpe Diem, get brutally slaughtered. So it's a journey defined by immense suffering. But the real gut punch is the actual reason he was left completely behind to endure this hell alone.
Now what's really interesting here is the massive plot twist regarding the Stone of Return. During their climb, the walkers found these stones that supposedly let you time travel back to before the apocalypse, essentially splitting the timeline. As things got desperate, almost everyone used it. They abandoned the current world to go save a past version of themselves, but when Jaiwan finally defeats the Floor 99 boss and reaches Floor 100, a demon named Beastlane hits him with a horrifying truth. It wasn't a Stone of Return at all. Actually, it was a Dream Demon Stone. There was literally no time travel. It simply trapped all the cowards who used it in a permanent, dream-induced illusion.
And somehow, the nightmare goes even deeper. Beastlane reveals that the entire tower was just the tutorial. Earth was never actually destroyed. Can you believe that? The tower was essentially this cruel, demonic agricultural system, a harvesting ground perfectly designed to filter out the strongest, most worthwhile human souls so they could be sold as products to a higher dimension called the Great Lands. Everyone outside on Earth is perfectly fine just living their normal lives, completely unaware. Jaiwan fought, bled, and watched his best friends die for an absolute lie.
So, how do you even respond when the universe slaps a price tag on your soul and tells you everything you fought for was a joke? Well, Beastlane expects Jaiwan to just accept a mind wipe, take his rewards, and go off to the Great Lands like a good little product. But Jaiwan? No way. He refuses. Instead, he decides to kill the unkillable system admin. And while all the other adapters had spent their time chasing flashy magic, secret skills, and hidden classes, Jaiwan had completely ignored all of it. He spent his time perfecting a single, unbelievably stubborn physical attack, the thrust. Because it wasn't technically a system skill, it didn't drain his spirit power. It was just pure, unadulterated dedication.
And here is where the story gets absolutely insane. 10 billion. That is not a typo. Jaiwan traps Beastlane in a loop of combat, flat out refusing to leave the tutorial, and he executes 10 billion thrusts. The sheer scale of this repetition causes his basic attack to evolve so far beyond the game's logic that he actually begins to see the digital particles like the literal code making up the world. On his 10 billion thrust, Jaiwan physically glitches out the demon Beastlane, completely shattering the tutorial's code and breaking the game system itself.
Standing over the glitching, defeated demon, Jaiwan delivers this incredibly cold, cinematic line. He says, "Humans are not goods to be traded. They're not stepping stones." He officially rejects the rules of the Great Lands, and instead of moving on to their predefined next floor, he takes his massively overpowered sword, thrusts it straight into the ceiling of the tutorial, and physically breaks out of the game entirely.
Welcome to chaos, falling into the afterlife.
So, by shattering the roof of the Nightmare Tower, Jaiwan completely bypassed the Great Lands and fell right into a terrifying, lawless new realm. Chaos is officially the world of the dead. It's basically a cosmic garbage dump for souls. When adapters from the Great Lands die, they don't just disappear, they get sent down here to act as nutrients for this massive structure called the Mirage Tree. And to make matters worse, newcomers arrive completely naked, stripped of all their gear, with their powers severely limited by this brutal, unforgiving environment.
So the crucial point here is that survival totally revolves around avoiding spiritual corruption. It's this chronic terminal illness in chaos that slowly breaks down a person's spirit until they literally cease to exist. The only temporary medicine you can get comes from harvesting the horns of these deadly local beasts. But here's the twist. When he's tested, Jaiwan registers a spiritual corruption level of absolute 0. His spirit is completely pure, making him a total anomaly in this world of the dead.
Because he's such an anomaly, his power scaling is just completely off the charts. While a local faction is out there struggling for their lives against a two-horned beast, Jaiwan casually obliterates it with a single basic thrust. Later, when the notorious Red Fox clan tries to rob him, alongside a fiery local fighter known as Mino, the Witch of Massacre, he just wipes out their elite assassins in a blink. He even casually shatters the magical law-binding decrees of Gorgon Castle just by flexing his aura. He was just completely flexing on all the local factions.
The path of the awakened, breaking the system's code.
Now you might be wondering, how is he doing all this if he totally rejected the leveling system? Well, it comes down to two very different paths. On one side, we have the adapters. These are the people who rely on the system. They gain levels, pick classes, and follow the rules the Great Land set for them. But on the other side, we have the awakened. These are anomalies, like Jaiwan, who completely reject the system. Instead of borrowing magic from a game interface, an awakened overwrites the system's code with their own unique reality.
Forging this path, though, requires a brutally difficult three-stage skill tree. First, you literally have to doubt the world you live in. Second, you have to understand the grim truth of it. And finally, you must forget the self that was defined by that system. To actually master this, Jaiwan trapped himself in a hyper-dense time-space back on the tower's 3rd floor. He experienced 2,000 subjective years of training, fighting his past selves over and over just to forge a new reality.
Which perfectly leads into his core philosophy. At one point, he tells a struggling craftsman, "Hard work isn't wrong. If you still can't do it after all that effort, the world is wrong." Jaiwan realizes the game was rigged from the absolute start, so rather than play by their broken rules, his sheer willpower and a single thrust are enough to just overwrite a broken reality entirely.
Rise of the New King. War with the Great Lands.
Let's move ahead and see how this builds, because you don't just break the system and slaughter game administrators without the elite rulers noticing. The escalation is rapid and, frankly, terrifying. The Palace of Resurrection, commanded by the elite monarchs of the Great Lands, launches a massive offensive straight into chaos. Manticore Castle falls in a week. Now, Gorgon Castle is besieged by an army of ghouls. But instead of hiding, J1 teleports directly into the enemy command center to confront the monarchs face-to-face.
And what follows is pure cinematic chaos. The monarchs quickly realize they are completely outmatched by J1's awakened power. So, in a desperate move, 5 of these monarchs fuse their souls together to summon a massive 5-eyed dragon, the absolute pinnacle of their flashy magic. J1 just looks at this ultimate attack, raises his sword, and unleashes a single world-ending thrust. He completely annihilates the dragon and shatters the combined might of the monarchs in one explosive blow.
The aftermath of this crazy battle completely reshapes the entire political landscape of chaos. The Palace of Resurrection is utterly defeated. J1 literally takes a monarch hostage, just dragging him back as a prisoner. And from the ashes, he establishes a new, unified fortress called Carpe Diem. Under his new banner, the warring factions of chaos, humans, ghouls, and even horned beasts unite for the very first time. J1 isn't just a survivor anymore. He is for sure the undisputed new king of chaos. So it leaves us with this final thought. What would you do if the universe tried to put a price tag on your soul, and you had the power to thrust right through it? J1's incredible journey from an isolated, grieving survivor on the 99th floor to the reality-breaking king of chaos is an absolute testament to rejecting false systems. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the rules, and I'll catch you in the next one.